Well, they blew up all the chickens in Bonanza last night. Now they burned down the jobs board too. Down at the showdown, they're getting ready for a fight. Gonna see what them merchant boys can do. Now there's trouble busting in from CBS, and Jonathan Cars can't get no relief. Gonna be a rumble by the microwave, and the town council's hanging on the skin of their teeth. Well, now everyone cries, baby, that's a fact. But everyone that cries chugs their root beer back. Put your gold star on, get your bandana pretty, and meet me at Kid Nation in Bonanza City.
My name is Daniel Kyri. I'm known, at least in relation to Kid Nation, as DK. I am fully no longer 14, and that feels good. I'm a grown-up, at least as much as I can call myself that. And I live in Chicago, Illinois still. I am a professional full-time actor. I am currently on the NBC series Chicago Fire. I play a firefighter, no, really gay firefighter with a really cute Dalmatian puppy, and I live in Chicago. Yeah, like that.
Nice, cool. So we wanted to kind of go back to the beginning, or at least the beginning of Kid Nation, and talk about the casting process. What was the casting process for you? How did you get selected to be on Kid Nation?
Right. So I think I don't know if you guys have been like following up with any of the other former contestants.
Yeah, we've talked to Laurel and we've talked to Anjay.
Okay, dope. So Sophia, actually, who I just connected with literally today, has like this whole thing on her YouTube page where she answers questions like these. But it got me thinking. So I'm happy that you're asking now, because it got me thinking about it. But I remember, essentially for me, I was doing this program in Chicago called the Chicago Children's Choir, right? So it was just like an extracurricular activity that I did with my siblings, and there was like a concert where all the different branches, because Chicago is segregated as hell, all the different branches of this organization will come together and host like this yearly, gala kind of event in downtown Chicago. So we all kind of came together, and each like district would kind of do like their own number and whatever. And we, at the time, one of the more popular things that we were doing was this rendition of Kirk Franklin's, what is the name of that song? Know that I've been looking for you, because he has this whole part where he's like, where he's front and center and on the track, and he's going in the front now. Here we go now. Where you at now, ladies? And then they do so it's like this call and response thing that he does.
Oh my God,
and,
Kirk Franklin.
I did that. That was my part in the concert. So I was Kirk Franklin.
Whoa.
So little 14-year-old self, or maybe I was 13 at the time, got up and like just with all this energy jumping up and down and around the stage doing the whole thing. So anyway, long story short, a casting associate was scouting in the audience, and they contacted my choir instructor, who contacted my family, and they were like, would you like to go and try out for this Survivor Junior TV show thing? And I like, yeah, okay, fine. And
oh my God, that Kirk Franklin must have killed then. Just
listen, I was great. This child jumping up and down and around stage, just yelling at people.
I'm imagining this casting person taking these notes, like circling, yes, got it.
They probably were taken by the fact that I absolutely reveled in that power that I had over the audience at that moment. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
I mean, when you hear the recaps of the show, we do call you a standout kid. So you're definitely like a force on the show.
It's not a good or bad thing, though. That's the question.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing, because there's like this, you weren't afraid to be your emotional self, with everybody, and also like you were one of the bigger kids, right? Like, so you're a little bit
14
of an adult in the Kid Nation land, even though no one was adults and everyone was kids.
Well, Greg was 30, but other than Greg,
right. Yes. Just intimidation factor alone, he was a super adult in the town. 40 but right. I see, and you say it's a good thing, and I just remember I don't talk about being on the show much because it's so like it's cringy.
Yeah.
It's just in the fact of like being not a fully formed person, and I hear you saying the thing about the emotional stuff, which now is something that I value as an adult. Like, at least the vulnerability involved in like embracing the emotional self, but like at that time and not necessarily having as much language to even express myself, I think I cringe at the way 14-year-old me expressed sometimes, which there's a whole lot of unpacking I'm sure that I'll do with my therapist at some point, but at the very least, like, I think about it and I have a cringe reaction, even if it doesn't come from a place of judgment, because I was a child. But.
Well, something we noticed about, and I again, this is like the weird part of television, right? I was about to say, the weird thing about your character, it wasn't your character, it was, you, but we noticed for you and some of the other kids, but mainly for you, there was moments, I think, when maybe there was confrontation or kids were, not washing dishes or whatever the Bonanza City drama was. We noticed that a lot of kids it seems like they would say things maybe their parents would say. Like, when you can hear yourself being your parent. Like, like I think there was something about, like, sit down and respect a 14-year-old or something like that. And I was like, oh, I can hear a mom saying this or, like, a parent saying this.
I remember one of the things I said after some kind of confrontation with, like, I think it was Taylor or something, and there's just this cutaway scene of me, and there are some other people sitting around me, and I'm going, I'm 14 years old, you're 10, like, I'm, or whatever, I'm 4 years older than you need to respect me. And, like, it was like, watching this little person, like, just regurgitate this thing that, yeah, totally, it's like your mom would say something like, I'm the adult, you're the kid, sit down and listen. Mm-hmm. And so much of what you see in the interactions on that show, I think, is actually, it's the channeling of a, because what else do we have at that point, you know what I mean, to show us what is right or wrong, and then you get there, and there are these other forming, people in development,
pioneers, as we would call them in or pioneers, as we would call them in the.
Let's do it, yeah. So pioneers, these pioneers,
pioneers on their journey. Yeah, no, I'm glad that we weren't alone, because I think when you hear what kids say, it comes from where you're from, right? And then, if we're lucky, we get the chance to meet new people and maybe live somewhere else, expand our horizons, go to school, like whatever that looks like. But we're dealing with 10 to 14-year-olds and and Lord, we know some 8-year-olds as well.
Yeah. I was watching, so I actually took it was the worst idea that I've ever had, but I actually sort of re-binged the show with the people that I've been quarantining here in Chicago with, my co-star and roommate and our respective partners, and it just, boy, was it uncomfortable. And it was uncomfortable, and also I think I had a lot more compassion for myself and for the other kids than I did, at the time that it was airing or immediately after, because it's just like this refrain just got, even with Greg, in my opinion, it's just like we were a bunch of kids, like we were children, and so like even though you're tempted to sort of villainize a Taylor or villainize a Greg, there are also moments throughout the show that were captured and also that were never even seen, of like, oh yeah, and like I'm sitting here watching it and remembering as I'm watching, and I'm like, well yeah, these are complex, kids trying to figure this really kind of like fun but difficult thing, and and then we're being filmed, and then there are, of course, the outside forces of the narrative that's being pushed and laid over our interactions. Mm-hmm. There's so much to take into consideration, and I think that's maybe this answers a question that I've been wondering, which is why the hell is this popping up again now after all this time? And I think it's just this little bizarre time capsule like moment of 2007 where it's just like, this was the time. This was such a direct reflection of where we were at that time. At least it feels like to me.
Yeah.
Because what else could that show have gotten?
Yeah.
Yeah.
we have a running joke on the podcast where anytime George W. Bush or the Iraq War is mentioned, take a drink. It's it's wild. Sure. It's truly wild to see like Taylor spouting off about like, well, George W. Bush told me this, so.
Lots of Saddam Hussein mentions, and it's children mentioning this. It's like,
yeah, but I remember watching, and it was like, I think it was, oh gosh, was it Emily or what's her name, Savannah? I think it might have been Savannah, who, like, when they were talking about killing the chickens.
Oh yeah,
like someone said something along the lines of like they're gonna hang them like Saddam Hussein. I remember like my jaw, watching it now, like dropped. I was like, holy.
Yeah, I was like, why are these kids watching the snuff film of Saddam's execution? This is truly wild. How did they get access to that?
Well, and even too, when you're saying like, why is this popping up now? I think because I, besides with comedy and podcasting and the audio realm, I work in unscripted and docuseries reality. And right now, we are in an era of like Queer Eye. We're in an era of uplifting reality TV. Of it needs to be inclusive and smart.
Great British Baking Show.
Great British Baking Show. It's soothing. We're soothing because we don't want to look outside our window right now. Because outside our window, everything is totally upside down. And not that things weren't then. I think we were just more okay with things being upside down and encouraging the upside down because it was just such a different era of like that gotcha kind of television was way more okay in the early days of Wild West reality TV, where now we don't want people to feel like they had like, the rug pulled out from under them. We want to uplift people. But again, is that like, is that real? I don't know. It's complicated, right? Thinking of the landscape of reality television in also terms of like what's going on socially and politically and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, it's like this. It's like, I mean, we all work in this industry one way or another, but it's like all content, whether it is sort of explicitly talked about or not, all content is curated. Mm-hmm. And so at that point, what is quote unquote reality and what isn't?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and even saying,
question.
Yeah, even saying like with the villainizing too, like when we're watching the show, it is like it's a television format with characters and people, so you do start to think in that like way, and then you do have to check yourself and go, this is a 10-year-old. I shouldn't judge them for starting a fight with another 10-year-old because that's what 10-year-olds do, and that's okay. And
that's totally what they do. And like, when did we stop like understanding that? It's like we actually did. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I took you guys upstairs with me. You can choose to use this in the podcast or not, but okay, I found it. This is a cocktail I made last night. I'm gonna have it because quarantine. I don't have anywhere else to go.
What's in it?
It looks like a Paloma, or what is that?
But you know what? Oh, I did want to bring up a point, though. Is that I actually feel like it's more accurate in some ways to refer to the DK that made it, the cut in the editing room as a character than as me, because it's such a myopic view of who I even was at that time, who any of us were. Because again, like there is the narrative to factor in, right? Like if this is the conflict or this is the hook, this is the thing that's making us lean in, of course we're only going to show this like this side. Mm-hmm. I think the person that if I had to judge, and I think they did a pretty good job of just like of also showing different sides to different people, but also for the most part, I mean, they were going after, even in the casting process, this sort of archetypal casting.
Right.
So that you get, they went in with points of contention and drama in mind, because otherwise you don't have a show.
Mm-hmm.
you know.
I mean, the
And
whole
so-
religion episode was that. Like, if we didn't have it before, that was it hammered down our throats.
Yeah. So I have a question about the episode where you almost leave. I was wondering if you could talk. I think it goes about halfway through the series' run. I was wondering if you could talk about what kind of led up to that, and also kind of shine some light on what exactly you and Guylan talked about. I mean, I think the main question I have about that is, did Guylan whisper in your ear like, "Hey, we're about to give you $20,000. Stay for one more episode"?
So basically, from my remembering, what occurred for me emotionally. So I have an older sister, Delisha. I mean, I have 6 siblings, so I have a big family. But my older sister and we were inseparable and very close to age. She's a year and some change older than me. I remember like that was the longest time, literally since my birth, that I'd been away from her. So as much as, you know, whatever conflict or whoever might have like said something to upset me, and honestly, I think that probably is closer to the truth. I feel like somebody said something to upset me or like whatever, and like I was just trying to bail and go home. But I remember a large part of that being about me missing my older sister, Delisha. And I was watching. I remember being like so embarrassed about the fact that I cried on television. And now I have so much more grace and space for that now that I'm like older. Like when I was watching that episode, I was like, yeah, dude, you feel your feels. But and so what ended up happening with Guylan, there's a lot in our conversation. It was, I think, much longer than it appeared than what made it onto the TV. But our conversation was long, and it was a lot of back and forth. And he said, you know, the stuff about the brother. I felt really close to him at that time. And then, to my recollection, he totally alluded. He was just like, just literally, just stay like 5 more minutes. Trust me. It was something like that.
Uh-huh.
And I was, okay, I feel like something really keeps about to go down, so I'll like kick around. And I think you can even see like in the moment where I'm like, I decided to stay for you guys. I'm like, that's not fucking true. I decided to like figure out what he was alluding to. And yeah, so at that point, I think I had an inkling that I would win the gold star if I stayed. So that was a part of my decision to stay. But I didn't know about it at all before that conversation with Guylan.
Oh, and then we got to meet your whole family, which was so cute with the phone call.
Yeah.
Were they were they shocked? Yeah. Were they surprised?
Well, you asked were they surprised, and I think it's like this. I think if I'm remembering correctly, obviously production knew ahead of time who would be getting Gold Star, because otherwise, how the hell would they have a camera crew waiting in your home? Mm-hmm. So I don't remember the order of things. If it was like, on this day you do whatever, on this day it's challenge day, and then on this day is Gold Star Deliberation Day and Town Hall. But I think the Gold Star thing had to have happened beforehand. So the illusion of like deliberation and choice in the moment, I think, was probably one of the bigger falsehoods on the show, because I think that was something that was determined a little bit more ahead of time so that they could coordinate the call with the parents and etc. So, and in the execution of that, it's like, from my imagining, you know, they show up to, you know, your parents' house and they're like, hey, your kid may or may not be calling today. And at that point, I think any adult is going to be like, okay, so either something, but no, because like if something had happened like bad, they wouldn't be filming it. Right. So I would imagine that I would be like, did they win something? Is it money? So all of those like conversations always came across a little like flat or bizarre.
Yeah.
Just because like the parents are usually like, oh wow, that's okay, a Gold Star 20,000. That's like, and like that it's a.
They seem so bored.
Not large enough amount of money where it's like you don't really react that calmly. So I think they must have had some inkling, you know what I mean, leading up to the call.
Yeah, the way Laurel explained it to us was that they basically picked out 3 kids who were in the running for the Gold Star that episode, sent production, little tiny crews to each person's town, and then just filmed with the one that won. So there were like 2 families getting disappointed.
That might be true. I mean, I think it's a case of like multiple things being true at different times.
Yeah, I think it depends on the setup, probably. Because I know Laurel mentioned because I love both of y'all's families. They're so cute in totally different ways. But her mom was like freaking out, and we noticed that in the show. We're like, why is this the only mom? Like, if I had a child and they told me they had $20,000 they're coming home with, I would be like, yes. And I think I don't know how that happened, but I think she mentioned that maybe her mom actually didn't know somehow, and that's why we saw more of like a whoa. Where we agreed, during watching the show, the calls were always very like flat and bored and like, cool, you got what? Okay, well, have fun in the dust, I guess.
It came off a little bizarre, didn't it?
Yeah, no, it was weird considering $20,000 is a lot. It's not like $500, which is still a lot to me, honestly. But $20,000 substantial. Maybe because you're wearing red.
No, that's something to write home about. You know what I mean? Like, it's
that's life. That changed my life. So you're wearing red, which made me think of the red team, which I think is a kind of odd. And the red team was sort of an odd squad, right? I feel like because blue was always winning for the most part. Yellow was just like dishes drama. Green were like lovable, and I say this, like lovable losers. They couldn't really win, but they had all like the sweetie pies. And then the red seemed like an odd mix of characters. So we have Mike, we have you, we have Guylan,
Jared.
And again, this is open-ended really, like, did you like being on the red team? Did you feel red pride? Were you like, did you have friends on the red team, or did you get along more with kids on other color squads?
The truth is that I believe, no, I'm not going to give you guys ABC because I'm going to switch it to numbers halfway in between my listicle. So I'll tell you like this. One of the truths is that, when Cameron Cruz were gone, we were all freaking consorting with one another, and like the color district thing didn't matter nearly. I don't think nearly as much as it did. I mean, in terms of like, if you were a laborer or not, I think that it's actually funny because I was watching that and I was like, what an excellent distraction tactic, and how much it mirrors the system of capitalism that we actually operate under. And so that was a really fascinating thing to me. But to actually answer your question, I didn't particularly love being on like the red team. I don't remember particularly loving it. And also I did get along with a lot of the kids. I think more so the girls on the red squad, who you didn't really hear much from.
You didn't really get much. No, not much female energy from the red team. Yeah, Emily had that whole switch happen. I just have to laugh because it was so just sleepovers and chicken killing and all that stuff. But yeah, no, we didn't really meet anybody on the red team besides these kind of core dudes for the most part.
Yeah, like it was myself, Guylan, Jared, and like Mike, and like Michael sometimes, but like I mean, it was really just So yeah, I don't know. You're right. I think if there were a team that I felt like I belonged in, it was probably the green team. Because I was actually really close. I was really close with Laurel and Morgan and even Hunter a little bit, and like just like more green felt better, if not blue. Okay. And the only reason and Michael Tote too. We got along really well, apart from our moments of whatever. But yeah, no, I didn't particularly felt like I belonged on that team, and so I don't know, it was weird. It was weird. I felt like I could have been on blue or green probably.
I just think with red, we didn't really see much story as far as like a whole team goes, because I feel like we got a lot of blue energy, tons of yellow, and obviously lots of green. But red was always one that was kind of like floating story-wise, it seemed like.
Well, I think what happened was the story producers definitely tried to push Mike as like a main character. I mean, they made him a town council leader. But within a few episodes, I think they kind of like lost interest and like left maybe like a void in Red Team for several episodes. You saw the rise of Guylan, but then he kind of fell off too.
And then, I mean, then we have our own Daniel Kyri takes over the town council, and everything switches.
Yeah, you joined the town council when it became the Council of Big Boys. A lot of big boy energy.
Wasn't that wild? I was like watching that and I was like, what a twist, honestly. Because that shit, like, all four of us like on the council at the same, literally, first of all, Greg and Wayne, LOL. And then secondly, the fact that there's like Michael and I, and like, I feel like I was actually a little bit of like, I was like hot-headed, for sure. And I remember being a 14-year-old boy, and I remember like thinking that although Greg got on my fucking nerves sometimes over the course of that show, like I personally never really felt threatened by him, and I also understand. I feel like I've heard some of the younger kids at that time be like, "Yeah, I was intimidated as hell," and I was never one of those people. But I remember like wanting to be accepted by like Greg and Blaine, because it was like Greg and Blaine and Migle and Natasha, and then there was like kind of me, and that was like a thing, you know. For a little bit.
Like older kids?
Yeah, I think we kind of had this thing where we kind of were like, and yeah, so I don't know. That's probably the closest experience I've had to like a like high school experience, I think, because I never went to high school, so I don't. Yeah, but it was a weird space of like wanting to be accepted and like wanting to stand out, and then like also just wanting to be kind, and then also being manipulated a lot.
Yeah.
Were you homeschooled?
Yeah.
We found that was a lot of kids on Kid Nation were homeschooled.
Yeah.
I think it was a few. I think it was a few. I was homeschooled at that time though. I don't think I ever really talked about it that much though.
Yeah, because and we'll come back into where you are now and also in the nation, but because you said you didn't go, did you go straight into like performing after Kid Nation then, or were you like, was that the course you took?
No, I was homeschooled from my recollection, and I will readily admit to you that A, my memory is fuzzy, and B, my long-term memory isn't that fantastic when it comes to like minutia. But I believe I was homeschooled at the time that I started working on that show, which explains, I think, how easy it was for me to just hop in the show, you know, at the time we were shooting. And I was homeschooled like after that. But I think, so I was on Chicago Children's Choir, and I stayed on that even through the airing of the show. And then the summer after that, I started performing. But because I was homeschooled, I was in a way performing like immediately after that, and like, but that wasn't the reason I was homeschooled. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Wait, that brings me to a new question, and I want to come back to the Big Boy Town Council, because that was really when all hell broke loose, and an explosive like 3-part series there. But the talent show, did you perform in the talent show? I don't recall you performing.
I have to be honest. I think I did, but I really don't remember whether I did or not. I remember that. So at the end of the season, there's a song that the kids are singing.
Yes.
And it's like life is like the wind, always changing, da da da. And I was like, I'm gonna cry.
Oh.
That song.
Wait, sorry.
I remember I wrote that song.
What?
Oh, what? We were wondering because we were like, okay, this has to be an original song because they're not going to pay for the rights. You know,
yeah.
So
that's why we're singing like "Happy Birthday" and like "Amazing Grace."
Wait, so you wrote that? That's wild.
Yeah. So, and I think I don't remember the sequence of events, but I think I wrote that song for the talent show. It was like Laurel Morgan, Eric, and and like I wrote the lyrics and we sang it and did the whole thing. And then I remember being like, hey. Because I was actually I was friends with like some of the like crew too. I remember that, or like cool with them. And I remember being like, hey, if I like write the song and get the kids to like do it, will you guys like record it? And they were like, sure. And they did. I was wondering if they were going to use it at all. And then they slapped it like right at the end of the series.
Whoa.
Did you write the piano parts that Eric was playing as well, or did he do that?
I think Eric and I came up with that together. I sang the melody for him, and then he kind of tinkered on the piano and like figured it out. Yeah. So like that. So yeah, I did stuff, but you know, not stuff that really made it, I don't think.
Yeah, because obviously you're a talented. I mean, we're hearing little snippets here, but obviously talented singer. So, and I was just thinking, I'm like, I don't remember hearing you sing.
Well, Laurel told us that you were responsible for one of her best moments because she did not want to take part in the talent contest because she was a town council leader, but she said that you overheard her singing Amazing Grace and was like, girl, you have to sing that.
Well, funny because I don't know how well she remembers this. I remember, so, in the mornings we all had to, like, kind of get up and, like, go and get mics before we could do anything interesting, really. And so I remember a few mornings we would, like, get up and be waiting to get mic'd or whatever, and she would sing, and then I would sing, and she would sing, and I would sing, and then this one morning she sang Listen by Beyonce from Dreamgirls.
Okay.
And I was like, first of all, you are amazing. And I'm like, you're literally on a television show, and everybody needs to know that you can sing, like, right now.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know that. And then, and I don't know how it came around it being Amazing Grace, but yeah, I remember being at the top, and I was like, girl, stop playing, you need to sing and do the thing. I remember that night too, when she sang. I remember her family called my family, and we were on the phone, and she was just like crying and like being like, "Thank you so much for making me do that." And it was like a conversation that we had like when it was airing later.
Oh, that's so cute. Okay, because you freshly watched too, which is great. Because I feel like now I'm interested to hear your adult perspective, but. There was a moment where the Big Boy Council went to this like Native American powwow. It seemed like it was overnight, and that really just stood out rewatching the show for us because there was interesting elements of it, right? Of like being the elders and teaching the children, but then there was also parts that obviously feel like this could be strange cultural. I don't know, like just like what is the vibe on this? I guess I'm curious of like how you felt in that moment in filming, and then now watching it, it's just a really standout part of the show that's really different to take the kids, the council away, and then you came back. Did you guys stay overnight with them? Did you get this full learning moment, or was it just shorter than what we saw? Or I would love to hear about that overnight trek to the with the Native American tribe.
What's really funny about that is I entirely forgot about it until I watched it. I think we got to that episode maybe even like last night or something. But I remember being like, oh yeah, Hefe or something. Because memory, I remember him like calling us like Jefe, which is funny because it's Spanish. So I don't know. Like I don't know what like strange happenings in my brain. Like I had to assemble to even like get that. But I remember in between takes or behind the scenes or whatever you want to call it, like him calling us Jefe, and then there were these wristbands that they gave us, which in hindsight were these totally cheap, like whatever things, but there were these like leather bands that all four of us had, and it had like 3 pieces of silver on it, and I don't know, I remember it being actually a really great experience. Like I remember like there was something that felt reverent about it actually, oddly. And hey, maybe you guys will talk to Michael and he'll be like, this was bullshit. But like, from what I remember at least, it was this, totally bizarre, totally odd thing. I believe we did stay overnight. But if we did stay overnight, it wasn't in those teepees. It was probably like in a trailer or something.
Yeah, because you guys come back into town the next day
and the hot air balloons.
500 hot air balloons rising above Bonanza City. Were you guys like, wait, what happened?
Wasn't that kind of whack though? I was like, wait, why weren't we? But I remember that too. I remember coming back and being like, you guys could have told us there were going to be hot air balloons. Like, this is messed up. Like, I was upset. But
that's what we said. We're like, why did they send them out without the council? I would be angry. I didn't get to go.
When Jonathan Karsh is like, no, there may be a chance that the town council doesn't come back in time for the showdown. I was like, that's bullshit. That's not going to happen.
And then no showdown for the. You're out
for the big boys.
I wonder if that was. See, now my curiosity is piqued. I'm wondering if that was intentionally because of the challenge itself. Because it was them,
lifting the houses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe some desire for that to be more, I don't know, difficult or high stakes or something, because if we were there, I don't think that challenge would have been like that. Whatever. I don't know. I'm pontificating.
No, yeah. Well, I think it was obvious that anyone who was pretty much over 13 was leading the challenges for the most part. They were the ones doing the heavy lifting.
Literally.
Doing the, putting, inventions in order of when they were invented, or, whatever the challenge was.
Phonogram before the record player.
Did you like the showdowns or the element of competing on the show? Because when we watch back, a lot of these challenges seem really hard for kids.
Well, so I felt like they got progressively harder in these very weird, demanding ways. But from my understanding, they would test out the obviously they would test out the challenges before it got to us. But I don't know what their criteria for if children could successfully compete them were, because there were a couple where it was we'll have to carry the stones or whatever.
Oh,
yeah. And those we had to carry 500 pounds each, and I remember doing that, being that's 50 pounds a kid, and it was just this thing where I was that's kind of messed up, and it just didn't make sense. But at the time, I didn't think any of those things at the time. I just thought it was fun. I had a lot of fun, personally. It was never anything that I felt in danger from or anything like that either. Although I did get hurt a few times on the show, but
I think on the very first episode, I think you
tendons.
pulled a tendon or something.
I think Zach is right in that it was a muscle spasm, and I also think that I milked it for 1,000%. I remember also because I also have asthma, which obviously doesn't get talked about on the show. So there were times where whatever, I don't know, my inhaler wasn't around and whatever, and I think it ended up seeming as something else. But I had a few help. I also drank bleach.
Oh,
and there was a whole plethora of things that happened to me on that show.
Yeah.
That I think when I watch it, I cringe because it literally looks like I'm such a drama queen, which I am, but
but for good reason. We got spasms. I need to know more about the bleach.
Because when you Google Kid Nation, inevitably you find an article or a Reddit post about this bleach incident. So we just want to ask, so could you set the record straight? Was it overblown? What actually happened?
So it was not overblown. I am so sorry. Okay, so no, it was not overblown. Basically. Well, I don't know. I guess it depends on what articles you found. Okay, so you know how we did those soda bomb things?
Oh,
yes.
And you went to Bonanza bombs, of course.
The Bonanza bombs, right. So you would have the mug, and that would be with soda, whatever soda, and then you would have a flavoring, right? So it would be blueberry or cherry or lemon. And so I remember this one morning, I think we were merchants at the time, the Red District were merchants maybe, and I remember opening up the saloon and going in, and there were no camera crews around on us at that time. I think they were in the kitchen filming something with the Yellow District, and which is actually kind of odd because there were quite a few camera crews, but I just remember there was not one where we were. So that happened. And so we went behind the bar. And I was hey, do you guys want to do some Bonanza bombs? Just to start the morning off, because whatever, we can do whatever we want. And everybody was yeah. So I grabbed this total, and everything behind the bar was unmarked. So I grabbed this unmarked bottle with the yellowish liquid. I'm okay, cool, that's the lemon syrup. And I pour it into the shot glasses. And I'm okay, let's go. And it's freaking arm's length away. And we drop the things in and cheers. And I remember this detail. I was chugging. And you know how when you're chugging something, you don't really taste it sometimes? I was so focused on being, and then literally the kids around me started spitting it out and sputtering it, almost immediately upon tasting it. And I'm in my head, I'm laughing. I'm these guys are chickens. I'm gonna win this thing. And then all of a sudden, something was wrong. Something was very wrong. And I think I was about halfway done with my mug or something like that. And the fumes, I remember choking on the fumes and coughing, and I couldn't catch my breath. And I remember my head hurting, and then I remember like running, like there were kids around me, like, kind of running and screaming. And I remember running, and we found a camera crew, and then I collapsed from my recollection. Things went black, and then I came to, and I was being carried away. And I don't remember if it was on like a stretcher or like what, but I was being carried away, and then I got checked out by the medics, and I drank a whole ton of water and took some whatever, some pills, and I remember being out for the rest of that, not like asleep for the rest of that day, but I wasn't back with the other kids for like, I don't know, some hours. And I remember sleeping, and I remember waking up and feeling okay, and then they got me like pretty much whatever food I wanted, and so I was kind of like living it up. And I remember there was like what I now know is called a video village, which is where sort of all the monitors kind of are, and they're watching and whatever. And I remember like being able to like see that, like somebody took me to see that, and I just like slept and drank a bunch of water, and then like got to eat whatever I wanted. And then when I said I was feeling better, they sent me back, and I was like, let me tell y'all, I had burger and fries and pizza and water, and I feel great, like that.
Wait, okay. When in the how early in filming, or what day are we at? Do you know, or around? Was it early, middle?
It feels to me, and again, I really, really have to reiterate that this is just, unreliable memory, but it feels to me that it would have taken place somewhere midway.
Okay.
I don't know. It had to have been when we were merchants, because that's the only time that I think that could have happened, where we're opening the saloon and like maybe there's not a camera crew around. You know what I mean?
Did they call your mom when this happened?
I don't remember.
Whoa.
I know you said you were friends with, some of the crew, and I'm sure all the kids were friendly with the crew. Do you remember them being like, oh shit, we're gonna get shut down, or like any freakouts from this incident?
I don't remember that. And to go back and answer your question, I think that they might have called my mom and maybe been like, just so you know, there was an incident, he's totally fine.
Yeah.
Like that. I don't think, for the most part, I'm not totally sure that they were that transparent with the parents for most of the filming. But
why was there bleach behind the bar?
And why was it in an unmarked bottle?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not
like you guys were cleaning regularly, or so it seemed from the show. It seemed like, I'm just shocked that, because you guys don't have toothbrushes, you don't have this, but you have bleach. It's so weird. Like, it's just, I'm just surprised by that.
We've worked on set. Sometimes people fuck up and just...
Yeah, but...
There's so many safety regulations in order, but all it takes is one person to be careless and...
Well, and there are 40 children, A.
Yeah.
There are 40 children to keep track of.
True.
B, I think for sanitation purposes, even if it were not exclusively talked about or shown in the show, I think that we had like disinfectants in general. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? The last thing you would want is somebody getting a fucking bacterial infection
right.
or whatever on the thing. So I think that, no, we did have like cleaning solutions to use, at least from what I can remember.
Yeah.
That is. So that would be why. Now, as to why it was in an unmarked bottle, somebody fucked up there.
Damn. All right. Well, in Kid Nation exclusive. We've heard the tale. Again, I think when you read articles, you're reading written word, right? So your brain goes like, my brain sees you like sieging on the ground, drinking bleach, right? Like, and it's this extreme thing. Not that it's not to undercut your story, because that's so traumatic and scary. But it sounds like it ended with burgers, so maybe that was a good thing. I don't know, but but it is. That's like a pretty big deal.
Yeah, my brain went to you taking a sip, spitting it out, and that being the end of it. This was a lot serious,
like
really serious.
Truly drinking bleach.
Yeah.
No, I drank. Yeah, I think I drank. It was diluted. With the freaking soda, but no, yeah.
With corn syrup and root beer.
Yeah, that's a true Bonanza bottle. It's root beer and bleach.
I think what's funny is that a lot of people are like, why did the kid drink bleach? And it's actually like less a why and more a how did that happen? Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
Oh, yes.
It was not...
I didn't imagine you like chugging it from the bottle, with bleach written on the side. To have it be this bottle mix-up makes more sense, I think, for like all angles of the story. But like, oh, this is how production fucked up. this is obviously how a kid could accidentally drink bleach. And wow, okay, yeah, you did get a lot of. That's tough. You were put through the ringer in this pioneer town.
Yeah. I think. Well, because I think Maggie like fractured her thumb at one point pretty badly. Maggie, who you don't really.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
really,
I don't even think we know Maggie, which is a shame.
Yeah,
I wish I could have met all these other kids.
Multicolored. She had the multicolored hair in the red district. You might have. She pops up every once in a while.
Is she kind of like a goth, kind of like. Yeah.
Yeah, and you literally never hear from her on the entire show.
Yeah.
But like she on one of the challenges, I think, she fractured her thumb, and I remember it swelling up like crazy. She was crying, and they got her a cast. I don't know what happened with that, but she was okay. But yeah, I do. I think I remember that happening. Devon fried some potatoes.
Yep.
The way and got some splatter happening.
I mean, that was the Devad potato sales moment. It's a controversial part when both Pablo and I were watching it, because I'm team Devad doing a side business. I don't remember our exact conversation. I was pro this, but it seemed like that was also a controversial thing when kids started to do their own side businesses and hustles in Bonanza City as well. I don't even know if I have a question with that. I just had to say it because you brought up Devad's hot potato business.
I remember watching it this time around and being like, yeah, fuck it, why not?
Right.
But I remember being 14 and being like, that's not the rules. That's not how this works. You can't just come up with another way to make money even though you're a laborer. Like, no, and I remember being like, that's dumb and whatever. And do you know what's really fascinating to me about like the mentality around the show is that there ended up after a while when it came time to like reward the gold star or award the gold star, there became this thing around, oh, they're just doing it for the gold star. And I'm like thinking about that now. I'm like, why the fuck does that matter? Because if you're working hard anyway and making the town a better place, why does it matter if you're doing it for the gold star or not? Yeah. And I don't know. I've just been going back and forth with myself about that upon recently watching the show.
It's very, I feel like the theme, and I think it's very 2007, is very bootstraps mentality, right? They just work hard, and they didn't promote themselves, and they just did what they were told, and they kept their head down, and that's why, and not to say that the, Hunter is a bad kid or anything, there's no, there's none of that, but I think, like, the model of what Hunter did was, like, I'm just a good boy who does my chores, and I don't brag about myself. And it seems like the kids who bragged about themselves were punished by the council. Like, they don't like that you bragged about yourself. They don't like that you gassed yourself up and were like, yeah, like, I'm selling hot potatoes, or I'm making necklaces, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. Which is weird. Yes. I agree. I think you should be able to brag about yourself and say, I'm working hard, take notice of me, and give me a fucking gold star.
I think that's actually something, like, as adults, we kind of, like, value more now than we did as, like, I don't want to say we, like, but, like, us on the Kid Nation show. And I also think that it changed depending on who was in power on the council as well.
Yeah.
Because I remember, when Zach got his gold star, I remember that being, like, controversial because Greg was an asshole, but, like, also, like, yeah, he totally stood up for himself and, like,
right. Well, he got the later gold star.
With the gold stars, you have no idea. Like, it was like, first of all, to be a kid with that responsibility and that power, like, was awful.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Yeah, because I was, the kids came from different backgrounds. Some were upper middle class, some came from poor backgrounds, and to have that responsibility on your shoulder once you knew, like, I could get my family $20,000. Like, there was one storyline, I forget the kid, but it was all about his dad being laid off and out of work.
It was Hunter. It
just added this layer of, like, oh my God, there's so much pressure on these children to
provide.
Yeah, provide for their family.
And, well, right, because you see this, like, opportunity as, like, these are, they're on television and they want to be, and whatever. But, and also, you didn't, I think it's interesting that you didn't find out that information about Hunter until after he won the gold star.
Yeah.
I have nothing to say about that other than I find it interesting.
Well,
because
like,
it was...
Oh, sorry. It's like he knew to not use it to get the gold star because that wasn't working for other kids. And I don't know if he was that, calculated about it, but it was. If anyone came with a sob story or something of heart, it was like they just want the gold star, and it's like, yeah, of course they want the gold star. They're like, they have like, you know, at least like siblings, and they want to go to college, and they want to do this. Like, who cares? Put yourself out there. I don't know. I'm on that now. I'm heated up about this gold star. I agree. I think you should be able to like put yourself on the stage to receive it, but that wasn't valued then.
Yeah, and maybe it's just a larger reflection of our perception as kids of the world at that time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, perhaps that's what that is.
Yeah.
And also, I remember being the most disillusioned right at the end when the 3 giant gold stars, the $50,000 gold stars came out, and I remember watching it and like I was getting upset, like sitting here watching it, and I couldn't remember why until we got to the moment where we as a council like deliberated. Because I also remember crying like when it was before we knew about the $50,000 gold stars and it was the last gold star. I mean, like, I don't want to do this. Like,
yeah.
And that was because a specific reason that actually was, I think, is because I remember wanting to give one to Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that, and I remember like, and it's because I knew things about his outside circumstances that I felt like maybe other people weren't aware of, or you know, it's so hard to say because it's so many years later now. But I remember wanting a gold star to go to Pharaoh, and then I remember them telling us that 2 of the $50,000 gold stars had to go to oh my god, yeah. 2 of the $50,000 gold stars had to go to either a former council member or someone who'd already won a gold star. Yeah. And I remember them telling us about that clause with these stars. And the 4 of us, actually, all 4 council members, like, fought them. Like, we fought the producers. And we were like, that's not fair. That makes no sense. Mm-hmm. People here who deserve this money, like, more and need it more than the people who've already won gold stars. Yeah. I remember there was one dude, I think his name was, I shouldn't say his name. We'll call him Alvin. And Alvin came up, and he was like the most Hollywood douchiest of all the, like, producer people that we came in contact with. He's like, listen, babe, you do this for me, like, whatever, like, I'll make sure that, like, you know, you want to be an actor, right? Like, you sell this for me, and I'll make sure, blah, blah, like, all this bullshit. I remember as a kid being like, what? You sound like an idiot, like, whatever. And then... But eventually they kind of like beat us down, and not physically. But
actually, what if that was the plot twist of this interview? And actually, we were physically abused.
Beaten into submission. No. Yeah, but I remember they were like, this is the way that it has to be. Like, you have to do it.
That's so annoying, because watching it, because I think it was, Morgan and Sophia and then Migle. And it felt random because I'm like, okay, Sophia and Morgan obviously are standout green girls. Duh. Like, they're great, but they already won. Like, that was what we thought. We're like, they won. Why wouldn't you give it to... I feel like it should have been like an overall, like, not miscongeniality, but it's like the end of school. Who hasn't gotten a star yet? And Migle, we were hinting that she was going to get a star for a few episodes, so when she did, it wasn't that surprising. But since she was the only new person to get a star, it was a little... I don't know, it wasn't that great of a climax, I guess, in terms of the show.
I totally agree, and it's because that at least was specifically sort of curated and orchestrated. You know what I mean? Like, there was only one new person that we could give it to. And then, again, I have the benefit of having recently watched it, but I remember, like, in that episode, there's this cutaway where Jonathan's talking, and I think that they did a little bit of ADR, which we know in the business is somebody, like, goes in and they dub over with their voice. And I believe now that they did a little bit of ADR so that he could quickly throw in. And 2 of the gold stars have to go to a former council member or someone who's already won. And it happens so quickly that you don't even, like, register.
I was going to say, I don't remember them stating that, because I remember we were watching and we're like, this sucks, kind of.
I mean, like there's Pharaoh or Jared or Markel, all these, like, fun kids who have never gotten their due. And it's like, Migle, okay, she's cool, but she's not really a standout.
Yeah. I mean, great kid, but...
Watch episode 13 again, And if you don't find it, email me. And then when you find it, because you're gonna find it, when you hear it, email me, because like I know it's there because I literally heard it. And I remember like I was like, I don't remember him saying that.
Oh, we'll go find the. We'll go find the end. I mean, because it must have been like subliminally like put in there. But no, that is a lot of pressure to give out tons of cash, and also under those circumstances. And also, there's just there really were so many great kids. I feel like didn't get as much airtime and recognition.
I'll be it too. I think, and it's not that Migle, like, she got like barely any airtime, but her arc is true, and then her and Natasha kind of came, and they were like the cool girls doing like whatever, and then I think over the course of the like time together, they really softened up and became like, especially she actually became like a person who was helping out more and being a friend to some of the like younger girls in particular. Like I remember that like happening. And also, I'll be entirely candid and blatant. I don't know. I mean, fuck it. It's 13 years later, so whatever. But honestly, she had the most friends on the council.
Oh, here we go.
I think I mentioned in...
I hate when you bring this up, but I know what you're about to bring up, but go ahead.
In our recap for episode 13, I thought that it was like maybe Greg and Blaine had a crush on me. And that's why I gave her a star.
But either way, friends or crush, she was in with the council.
Yeah.
Like let's put it like that. Damn.
Yeah, because I was actually really close friends with Migle as well. So it was Migle, Blaine, Greg, and I. But like I said earlier in this conversation, like Migle, Greg, Blaine, Natasha, and myself were a little bit of like an older like foursome like group of. Wait, is that 4? No, that's 5. Jesus. Yeah, but like just like the older kids, like a group, a gaggle, if you will. But so there were, and they were already building up a little bit of a story around her from their point of view too. So I just think it made sense.
Right.
It was a thing that made sense maybe, and I still wish. No, I just wish. I guess I just wish that those 2 gold stars hadn't gone to people who'd already gotten gold stars, because that didn't necessarily seem. It didn't really seem fair, and it was a choice that was out of our hands, because I don't think that we would have made that. I really don't think we would have made that choice otherwise.
Whoa. So you're saying Pharaoh was a high contender for that if it was refigured. It sounds like Migle was probably going to get it, but who would you give the other 2? Like Pharaoh, and who do you think the other 2 should have gone to?
I think Pharaoh. I still do think Migle, because again, like. It's a similar situation with Pharaoh, where I knew things about Migle. You know what I mean? Like as a friend,
you have the connection, and she's Chicagoland too, right?
She was, at that time.
Cool.
And we kept in touch for a number of years afterwards too. But so Migle, Pharaoh, and then I don't know, like based on who I was at that time. I couldn't tell you. Maybe who would have been the third person to get it. I don't know. Maybe Mike.
Oh. Okay, I could see that. He held it down for a while, and he kind of got, like all council members, besides Laurel, got, chewed out of their role eventually. Laurel kept a mighty fist over her green team, but they loved her, it sounds like, too. But Mike, Pharaoh, and Migle, I'm imagining the alternate universe where we're seeing this gold star ceremony.
Or if not, I think Anjay too. Anjay would have been a good choice.
Yeah, we talked to Anjay, and he seemed pretty okay with not having won, but I mean, he was a great kid. He definitely deserved some reward for.
I forget Anjay didn't get a gold star because he was so prominent in the show and got so much slack for his leadership. But he's a kid. He seemed to be doing an okay job, as much as any kid can lead a bunch of other kids around.
Well, I mean, he was, and he did do a good job. And I think that, like, there were just a lot of strong-willed people around him at that time. Again, we were all different people, or not even, well, whatever. It literally is. It literally feels like a lifetime ago. Or a different lifetime is more accurate. But no, I think he was a good leader in context of the show and everything. And I just think he had really strong-willed people to contend with, and he lost when he went up against them.
Yeah.
That's really it.
I think I'm at the end of Q. Do you have anything lingering?
No.
I have a hypothetical Q to end us, basically.
Yeah, go ahead.
But just So say CBS call. We hang up this interview. CBS calls you immediately afterwards. What's the coincidence? They're like, Daniel, DK. Ooh, when did you switch from DK to, or do you still go by DK? We didn't really ask that.
It's close. I mean, obviously, professionally, I go by Daniel Kyri.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah. I just grew up, so I stopped being known as DK and started being called Daniel. But also, there are a lot of people, like in the theater community in Chicago, or on set, where still call me DK. I think it's more a thing of like people who know me more closely call me DK, and then everyone calls me Daniel.
Got it. So CBS calls are like, Daniel, how's it going? It's been a while. We want to get all the kids back, but for an adult Kid Nation. You're all adults now. Same cast. Everybody's here. 40 days. We're going back to Bonanza. Would you go?
40 days? Fuck no. I have no time. I have no fucking patience. No, absolutely not. Like literally, I would have no time to do that. But if it were, I don't know, a reunion like episode, like special or something like that, for the sheer curiosity of it all, I am a full body yes to have that experience. And because, like, I'm so curious at who everyone is now.
Yeah.
Like, I was watching, if you haven't, go watch Sophia's, I messaged her about it today, but go watch her videos on YouTube. It's shocking to me, how much she is the exact same person that she was when we were kids. And I'm awed by the fact that someone could know themselves so well at that age.
Yeah.
Well, I think she says on the show, she's like, I'm a 60-year-old woman trapped in the body of a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
It's like, mm-hmm.
And she has since revised that to now I think she said, now I'm like an 80-year-old woman trapped in a 28-year-old in the body of a 16-year-old.
It's so funny. Well, if they get a Kids Nation reunion, I think that will be the straw that makes me finally subscribe to CBS All Access. If they want to do that, I am on board.
Yeah, I think I would do it, and then, but 40 days is a no.
Well, I mean, that answers everything. Thank you so much for talking to us. And if you want, I mean, we'll put this in the episode show notes, but do you want people to find you online? Do you want to give us promo
hell
yourself?
yeah.
And you want to plug Chicago Fire?
Yeah, give us some plugs.
Okay, great. You guys, wait, should I do it in like I'm talking directly?
Let's break the fourth audio wall.
Okay, cool. Hey guys, my name is Daniel Kyri. You know me as DK from Kid Nation. You can find me on social media platforms at Daniel Kyri. That is DANIELKYRI across all social media platforms. Yes, that includes TikTok. And you can also watch me Wednesday nights, 9/8 Central, NBC. Oh, I fucked up that last part.
We'll cut the pause. We'll be straight to NBC.
I kind of like the pause, but Chicago Fire, right?
Yes, on Chicago Fire, NBC, Wednesday nights.
Watch it. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Daniel.